how to build an internship program. My name is Summer Salazar, and I serve as the Director of Employer Engagement at Texas Career Engagement. And we're so excited to have launched this series to be able to bring employer education to you. So we're glad that you're here today with our two amazing co-hosts for today's presentation. We have Megan Fortson, our Assistant Director of Employer Education, and we have Lane Blazevich. And so I will introduce both of them. I'll kick it off to Megan to get today started. So thank you all so much for being here. Megan, take it away.
Great. All right, and so we can actually go to the next slide, Lane, and we'll dive in. So we are Texas Career Engagement. We originated in 2018 based on findings of the College to Career Task Force, which was made up of faculty, staff, students, and they really just took a deep dive look at what was going on in career resources at UT. And they found that some majors had access to more resources, opportunities, and experiences than others. And so the outcome was our office, Texas Career Engagement. And so we work with all of our UT Career Service partners and beyond to really make sure that students are able to maximize their experience from when they first become a Longhorn all the way to graduation and even serving them as alum. And we also, our mission is to provide equitable service to all UT students and alumni, and also provide our employers with equitable access to diverse talent across the university. And so we developed Hook Talent EDU, this education series, to really enhance the employer's recruiting experience and your success across campus. So that's really how this series came about. So first, we just want to give you a really brief overview of intern recruiting across campus. So there are 15 college career specific career service offices. And also you have us, Texas Career Engagement, and we're really the bridge across all of our UT campus partners. And so we really love talking with employers about, what are the skills they're looking for in candidates versus major, because you can really find pockets of those skills across a campus. And we want to make sure that you're able to tap into all of the talent and increase your diversity in candidates as well. And so we really help you target your recruiting efforts in that way. We also help you with, posting campus-wide. So we manage Hire You Texas Powered by Handshake, and that's a campus-wide online recruiting system. And so that's where you can post, and all students and alumni have access to job postings there. But then also there are a handful of colleges that have exclusive posting boards only for their students. For example, the Macomb School of Business, nursing, and so there's some colleges like that. And so we know if you have that target, that we really want to make sure you also post in those boards, and we can help you find those in those employer relations contacts. So, first, broadly, we want to make sure that internships align with the National Association of Colleges and Employers internship definition, and also any unpaid internship passes that Department of Labor internship test. So with that, with the NACE internship guidelines, just a brief overview that really, ensures that students are getting this educational experience, that this isn't a part-time job, but it's an internship. And it's got that component of mentorship and learning, and that the students are in a business atmosphere, and nowadays that also means a virtual business atmosphere. So there's that level of communication that really shepherds the student's experience. And that also the experience aligns with their curriculum and their career path, and that this is a step towards their career. And that they're supervised by an expert in the field that can really give them that mentorship and help them launch, their dream job one day. And then also with that, with the unpaid internship test, really what stands out there is just making sure everything is very transparent. The student knows they're not being paid for the internship. The work that they're doing is a complement to the work of the company. It doesn't replace a paid position. Resources are provided for them to do their job. And once again, they're definitely getting that educational experience that's relevant to their career path. So that's a brief overview. And we'll also be following up with links to all of our recruiting guidelines and just share more info. We also want to say today, for this presentation, we know there's a lot of different folks in the room. So there'll be some employers they've been doing their internship program for 20 years and it's, well-oiled machine. There's other folks who are starting from scratch. You're ready to start an internship program and you're excited and you want to learn UT best practices. And then there's some folks in the middle. Maybe you want to make some tweaks. Maybe you're doing some, different changes due to the virtual world. And we've got tips related to virtual today. So we really hope this workshop covers, your questions and your thoughts around that. Lane is our expert. And we're just so happy to have him here today to do this presentation from our Internships and Career Experiences team. So then I'll just let Lane take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. I appreciate that. And thanks again, everyone, for being here. So today we're basically going to give you an overview of how to start that internship program. And like Megan said, maybe you've already have an internship program and you want to maybe get some best practice ideas or learn some tips on how to make it into a virtual setting. So everything we'll be talking about today is going to be a broad overview, and then we can always answer any questions at the end for specifics like that. So let's start with what the benefits of interns are. Not only benefits to you as a company, but also to those students. Interns are going to bring so much to your organization. They bring fresh ideas. These students are learning new industry insights, new industry trends. So it's a really great opportunity for your organization to bring in new perspective. It's also at a low cost and low risk for you. Internships are kind of like a trial run for your full-time employees. And it also helps increase brand awareness among students at UT. So students talk to students about their experiences. So if they have a really great internship experience, that message is definitely spread throughout campus. So it's basically free advertising for you, not only your products, but then also employment opportunities. Internships really serve as a talent pipeline. So again, it's that low cost way to have that intern part-time, test them out, learn what their strengths are, and see if you'd like to hire them as that full-time employee. As you can see from that statistic from NACE, around 87% of interns converted to full-time hires from their host organization for the class of 2019, which is huge. So it's really beneficial for you as an organization to create that talent pipeline and have a continuous talent pipeline. So right here. So Megan kind of already gave you the standards of internships with NACE, and this kind of just summarizes. So what exactly is an internship? So internships are those high impact learning experiences that basically allow students to bring concepts that they've learned in the classroom and apply them to a real world work situation. So these experiences are usually related to a student's academic major or maybe a particular career interest. Like Megan was saying, everyone here is going to have a different internship. There's not a cookie cutter way to host an intern or not a cookie cutter job description of what an intern will do. So based on the needs of your organization will really depend on what that internship looks like. Internships really mimic responsibilities of those entry-level positions. So as we're going through today, think about what your entry-level workers are doing, and interns would just be assisting with those types of projects at half-time or full-time. Some really specific things about internships are that internships have a specific beginning and end date, and we'll talk about those dates. Internships also have defined learning goals. So what is that student going to be learning from this experience? What are the goals of having this internship? Is it working on a specific project? Is it a short-term project? Is it contributing to an overall business plan? What exactly is it? Internships also have that experienced supervisor who's there to provide that routine feedback. So again, all of these positions are going to look different. It'll just depend on what your organization needs. Some specifics about internships, there are a lot of different types. So a lot of positions within organizations have something that might be really related to an internship, but just doesn't have that intern title. So types of internships include, they can be in person or in a virtual setting. They can be maybe micro internships where they're only a 5-week project. Maybe they're research, maybe they're doing student teaching, maybe it's field work. A lot of those experiences are similar to those internships, they're just not labeled as that intern. So thinking about those different types. The hours with internships, they can be part-time or full-time. So part-time internships are typically 10 to 20 hours per week, and then full-time internships are 35 to 40 hours, whatever your organization classifies full-time employment as, or full-time hours for employment. And those typically happen in the summer. The length of internships run anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks. Internships usually coincide with academic semesters. So students plan their lives in accordance to academic semesters. So spring being January to May, summer being May to August, and fall being August through December. Usually that's the length of internships. Again, since they have that specific start and end date, I would definitely recommend having your interns start and finish during those semesters, because you're going to get more attraction to that application if it starts and ends within the semester, because that's when students are thinking, oh, I need to start looking for an internship because classes start in a few weeks. So that's really going to be beneficial for you as an organization to try to follow that timeline. Internships can also be done for academic credit. So it really just depends on the student's academic department on what those qualifications to earn credit are. Each academic department at UT has a different qualification. So just be aware that students might ask their employer to sign off on some paperwork for their internship, or maybe complete a learning agreement. It just depends on what those requirements for the class are. We also have a 0 credit internship course for students who might not have an internship course within their academic department. So that's something we're really excited about at TCE, that we were able to launch that. One thing I do want to point out with academic credit is that if employers require students to earn academic credit for that internship, a lot of the time students will have to pay tuition for that internship. So sometimes we see an unpaid internship is saying it's unpaid, but earn academic credit for it, which is great. But just keep in mind that students typically do have to pay that tuition for that academic credit. And then the 0 credit, fortunately enough, we've kind of eliminated that barrier where students don't have to pay for the 0 credit course that we're offering. So we're excited about that. So let's get into the bulk of planning an internship. So hosting a successful intern really only requires 3 things: resources, a little bit of planning, and some time commitment. It's not as stressful as you may think. So if you're new to hosting interns, want to assure you that it's going to work out. We're here to help you at TCE if you ever have any questions. But yeah, it shouldn't be a stressful process. Again, there's so many benefits to interns, and we're going to talk about these 3 things, starting with resources. So what resources do you need to consider to host that successful internship? Definitely compensation would be the first one. Internships can be paid or unpaid. Again, following those Department of Labor policies and standards. Texas Career Engagement definitely recommends hosting paid interns. Not only is it going to diversify your applicant pool, but you're going to attract more students to the position if it's a paid position. We find that a lot of students maybe have 1 or 2 part-time jobs, plus their studies, plus student involvement, and it might be a barrier for them to take on an unpaid opportunity. So definitely consider that. If you're not able to provide that hourly compensation, and it has to be an unpaid internship, following those labor policies, maybe think of different ways to offer compensation. So I've had employers that were unable to offer a paid internship, that at the end of the summer, they were able to give the intern maybe a $150 Visa gift card, or they bought lunch for the intern every Friday, or they were able to give them per diem for errands or work travel So think about different methods and alternatives if you're unable to offer that hourly rate, but again, following those labor policies. The workspace for an intern, it can be in person or virtual. So as COVID has shown us, the workplace is definitely evolving. A lot of things are going virtual now, and we've seen a lot of employers successfully transition in-person traditional internships into those virtual work settings. And we'll talk about more about those tips today. If you are having that in-person intern, it's really important to create a space for them. So giving them a desk, and then also giving them the equipment they need in order to be successful. So maybe that's a laptop, maybe it's a cell phone, maybe it's an office phone. What specialty items does your organization have that the intern needs to complete a project? What accommodations do you offer for students with disabilities? So thinking about all of those specifics, and then also technology. So having that intern, excuse me, having that intern set up with a company specific email address, any file sharing systems, account logins, anything and everything that they need in order to be successful. If you're hosting a virtual intern, maybe coordinating how you're going to deliver a laptop, or maybe the intern can pick up the laptop. Ensuring that students also have internet access. So maybe that's something that you can provide as a reimbursement. Maybe if you're asking interns to use their personal computer, you provide a wear and tear stipend for that, just depending on what your organization is having. But definitely don't be afraid to get creative and making sure that they're equipped with the space and the technology and the equipment that they need in order to get the job done. So let's talk about planning. What planning do you need to do? Coming to this workshop has definitely been step one, so you're on the right track for that. Whenever we're thinking about those interns and how everyone here, excuse me, everyone here today is gonna have that different internship format or structure. Maybe you're only looking for one intern, maybe you're looking for 20 interns. It really just depends. Really focus the planning around what does your organization need? So who or what teams in your organization could benefit the most from some extra help? What types of different projects can that intern assist with? We'll talk about projects in a second, but those are gonna be key to that internship success. When is help needed the most? You know, what's your busy time that you need the most help? Or what's your slow time where you can invest more energy and effort into hosting a successful intern? And then where can that intern work? Can it be a remote position? Can it be an in-person position? Maybe it's a hybrid of both. So really thinking about what does your organization need in order to create that effective job duty. So what exactly are interns going to do? Now that you know, hey, I need them, we need them during this time, what exactly are they going to do? They can do a lot of different things. So like Megan was saying, internships aren't part-time jobs. So the jobs that they should be doing within your organization should be, again, related to those entry-level positions and related to professional work. So here are some common areas. UT Austin has over 170 different fields of study. So there's a lot of opportunity to get some fresh insight, to get some competent students into your organization and help contribute to the purpose and the goal that you're working towards. I'd say that those job responsibilities should definitely be project-based. It's gonna be most efficient not only for the intern, but also for the supervisor. Early in my career, I created a social media intern at one of my organizations, and I thought, hey, this will be easy. I'll just hire a social media intern, a communication student, and they can just run with our social media. They'll know what to do. I don't have to give them any guidance, just do our social media. Well, that didn't really work out as well as I hoped it would because there wasn't any structure. I didn't give them any guidance on what projects with social media I wanted them to do, what campaigns, what specific target audiences I wanted them to reach. So it really cost a lot of time on my end because I was constantly having to create projects every week for my intern and then also doing my full-time job. So having those projects set up and discussed amongst your organization before the intern starts is going to be really beneficial. That way there's clear expectations of what's expected of that intern. And then speaking about expectations, being realistic with what an intern can do. We have some very talented students at UT, but also remember that this internship is more than likely going to be their first professional experience. So they might have some bumps in the road with productivity. You know, they might have some bumps in the road with follow-up or communication or things that we're really used to full-time workers being able to do. So keeping that in mind, and yes, having high expectations for them, but thinking about, you know, what is too much for an intern to do. And if you have any specific questions about if your position is well aligned with an intern's capabilities, then we're happy to help you with that. Virtual projects are going to be the key for a virtual internship, and those projects should definitely have those clear written instructions, because the intern's not going to be in the same building as you. So they won't be able to quickly ask you a question if they're confused. So making sure that all of those instructions and those assignments are clearly written, that way the intern can be successful. So once you've decided, you know, exactly what projects to do, you're ready to host an intern, you're excited about it, just as excited as we are, creating the job description is going to be your next step in that planning process. So job descriptions for internships should be the same as job postings for your full-time hires. As a follow-up to this presentation, we're going to send you this anatomy of a strong job description. And these are the different areas that your job description should have. I like to say that students view job descriptions the same way employers view resumes. So as an employer, I'm sure if you see a resume that doesn't have a lot of information on it, it's kind of sloppy, you can't really understand what that student is communicating, you might pass it along, look at the next resume. Same thing goes for students when they're looking at those job descriptions. If they click on a job and they don't see any information about what they'll be doing, what they'll be learning, what the qualifications are, who you are as an organization, more than likely they're just going to skip it. A lot of times when I meet with an employer, and they tell me, Lane, you know, this job has been posted for 2 weeks. I haven't received any applications. What can we do to get the word out? And the first thing I do is I go to that job posting, and sure enough, it's lacking some information. And so really having those clear, concise details on your job or your intern posting is going to be really beneficial. So definitely keeping all of these sections in mind, you can follow that template. Make sure if you have any specific application instructions that you're clear with that, so the student knows exactly how to apply for that position. And then any qualifications. So if you're thinking about what the qualifications should be within that position, we can help you out with that. So different qualifications might be their academic year, their academic major. We encourage employers not to include a GPA on those qualifications, just because GPA isn't always a great indicator of what type of worker that student might have. You know, maybe they had a tough semester and their GPA fell. Again, not including a super high GPA is going to help diversify your candidate pool. So keeping that in mind. And then those learning objectives and those learning outcomes are really beneficial. Students are going to want to know, what am I going to learn from this? You know, because internships are a stepping stone to that full-time hire. So they are looking to learn and develop the skills that full-time employers are looking for. And this internship is the way to do that. So being specific with those learning outcomes. For those virtual experience, definitely making sure that you're including that in your job posting. Some students might not be in Austin right now for classes. They might still be in Maryland, who knows? But having in that job description that this position is going to be remote from January through May of 2021 will allow that student to still be able to apply for the position even though they're not fully in Austin. So you've figured out your resources, you've done your planning. What's the next piece of hosting that successful intern? It's your time. And definitely we understand that time is valuable. We're all really busy, but investing just a small amount of time into that intern being successful is going to be really beneficial, again, not only for you as an organization, for you as a supervisor, but also for that student. So when hosting an intern, a lot of things to keep in mind. Basically, the main message I can say with hosting an intern is to make them feel part of the team. You know, they shouldn't be there to run errands. They shouldn't be there to order lunch and pick up lunch every day. Again, they're doing high-level job duties and responsibilities. So treating them like a high-level employee is going to really make or break their internship experience. A lot of times when I meet with students and I say, you know, so how was that internship this summer? You know, what did you like? What did you didn't like? A lot of them really like the job duties that they're doing, but they dislike the experience they had as an employee of that organization. Sometimes they feel left out. Sometimes they feel like it's clearly evident that they might be on the bottom of that totem pole. So really treating them as an equal and as a professional colleague is really going to be beneficial, because again, students are going to talk. They are talking right now about their summer 2020 internships, and they're telling each other, you know, this organization was great. I hated this organization. I learned this from there. My supervisor here was great. So keep that in mind as you're hosting them. You definitely want to make sure that you're doing an orientation and training on the first day. Reach out before that intern is supposed to start and give them an idea of what that first day is going to look like. You know, where do they need to park? What time should they be there? Creating a schedule would be really beneficial for that first orientation and training. In that orientation and training, make sure that you're giving them an idea of the organization. Give them an organization history. What are the organization goals or structures? That way they can become invested in your organization. Also, clearly communicate any rules or policies that you have. So that might be dress code. That might be how do they ask for time off? What are holidays? Typically internships usually follow the university holidays. So keeping that in mind, really set them up for success. That day one, as soon as they enter your doors or as soon as they log in to Zoom or whatever virtual work environment they're going to be in, that is really a first impression that's going to stick with them throughout the duration of their internship. So keep that in mind. From that day one orientation, onboarding, training, whatever your organization calls it, they should really have a clear idea of how to be successful in that position. Another thing sometimes employers forget is an office tour. You know, where are the restrooms in the building? Where's the break room? Are there any specific policies for the break room? Can they bring their own lunch? If so, can they use the refrigerator? Again, it's that first professional experience. So those interns might be a little hesitant to ask some things that might be common sense to you and I. So the more information, the better that you can provide on that first day to really increase that student success. And then throughout that internship and throughout the weeks that you're having them within your organization, think about how to maintain engagement. Same thing you would do with full-time employees. So what different events are you hosting as an organization? What networking opportunities? So maybe you're in a virtual setting, you want to host a virtual coffee hour every Monday for all the interns and all of senior management. Maybe send those interns a gift card to Starbucks so they can grab their coffee, or maybe you're providing coffee every Monday morning for those coffee chats. So you can include them in any professional events that you're hosting as an organization, or you can also set up internship specific events. So maybe you have a cohort of 20 interns one summer. So think about what intern specific events you can do. That way they can network with other interns, and then also bring them in so they can network with the full-time employees in your organization. So professional development, both inside and outside of your organization. So what opportunities can they learn new skills? Maybe they can attend a webinar that an industry leader within your sector is providing. Maybe you are going to help them attend a conference, a student conference for the professional association that you're a member of. Really think about those professional development opportunities. Students I would say A, from internships, want to learn new skills, and B, they want to network. They want to form those industry connections. So really creating an environment that they're able to do that is going to be really beneficial. And then remember that talent pipeline. That engagement is so important into that talent pipeline, because if they have a great experience as an intern, more than likely they're going to have a great experience as a full-time employee, and they're going to want to continue to come, or they're going to want to continue on with their employment as a full-time person. In a virtual setting, one tip we have, maybe mail swag items to them. So typically you give interns, pencils, a t-shirt, maybe a hat. If you're in a virtual setting, mail those items to them. Host those virtual events, create social media groups for interns to join, really expanding that in-person experience into the virtual setting can be an easy transition, just like we've all seen over the past couple of months, or few months, I should say. Continuing with that engagement and that experience of hosting an intern is that supervision. We're going to host a best practices for supervising interns, another workshop for you all to attend, and we'll give you information on that at the end of this slide. So those supervisors should, again, be those professionals that are within the same department that is hosting that intern. And those professionals have experience. Supervisors are a great opportunity for professional development within your organization. So maybe you have an entry-level employee who has been with you for 2 or 3 years and is looking for some supervisory experience, but they're not ready to take on a full-time member. Give them an intern. That's a great experience for them. Like I was saying, whenever I hosted an intern, to kind of feel out what it's like to supervise another individual. So when you are supervising those interns, making sure that you're giving those interns clear expectations. So how do you want them to communicate to you? How do you want projects submitted? Any specific information, as much information as you can give. Let them know your boundaries, let them know what you expect from them, and then also ask them what they expect from you. What do they need from you in order to be successful? Because it's going to be beneficial and learning from both sides. You'll definitely be wanting to create learning goals with interns. What are they going to learn throughout this experience? That way you can ensure that you're providing them with the resources and tools and experiences they need to achieve those goals. When you're talking about meetings, make sure, I would suggest doing them weekly. That way you can ensure progress. It also will help maintain that students' progress throughout any project deadlines. So you're not seeing them for 2 weeks at a time and you ask them, hey, how's that project going? And they say, oh, I haven't even started. Those weekly meetings will kind of help eliminate that mishap, I should say. Communication is so important, both in person and virtual. So making sure you're communicating through email, in person, phone calls. If you're hosting that virtual intern, maybe it's through instant message. Definitely be available for those students to ask questions, because I can assure you they're going to have questions. So keep that in mind as you're planning and as you're supervising. And then providing feedback. That's one of those key indicators of an internship. So providing feedback on a regular basis, students want to learn. So don't be afraid to tell them, hey, this isn't really the best way you could have done this, or I didn't like how you formatted this. In the future, could you format it in a different way? That way that intern knows exactly, what the work product should be, and they can learn from that. They want to learn, so don't be afraid to give them that constructive criticism. Feedback, again, on a regular basis. Maybe you do an initial meeting, big evaluation, and then a mid-evaluation, and then going on to that final evaluation at the end of the internship. So it's been 10 or 12 weeks. You've had a great time with that intern. They've learned a lot. They've helped contribute a lot to your organization. They've networked. They've formed connections. It's been a great experience. Now what? Definitely having that final evaluation at the end of the internship is going to be really beneficial. If the student earning academic credit for that internship, more than likely they're going to be required to submit a final evaluation, and then their supervisors are more than likely going to be required to submit a final evaluation of that student. Same thing as that regular feedback, reflect on those goals. Did they achieve their learning goals that the two of you set up at the beginning of this experience? Celebrate their success. Tell them what they did great. Thank them for what they did great. But then also discuss those areas that they can improve, because especially if they're, maybe a sophomore and this is their first internship, more than likely they're going to have 2 or 3 more internships after your internship. So when they leave your organization, what can they do to better themselves and make great impressions on other organizations within the same industry, and giving them that feedback. And then I would also, encourage you to ask them for their feedback on the experience. Did they like the events? Did they feel engaged? How did they feel about their supervisor? And really making it that mutual conversation, mutual beneficial experience. That way in the future, if for some reason the intern wasn't happy, or they said, hey, I loved my experience, but maybe orientation could look like this. I think that I would have learned more by you doing this. That'll help you be more successful for those future interns coming into your organization. Also, at the end of that internship, it's your time to decide about any return internship offers for maybe extending the internship to the next semester, or maybe you want them to come back the following summer. So thinking about those return offers, or maybe the intern is interning their last semester of college and you want to consider that full-time offer. So that's definitely something to consider. Each college at UT is going to have a different timeline for employers to follow. These timelines are guidelines that employers should follow when extending return offers. And the reason those guidelines exist is because A, we want students to be comfortable in their decision and be exposed to a lot of opportunities. So maybe at the end of the summer, they go through fall recruiting and they attend career fairs in the fall just to see, what other opportunities are out there. And then B, because we want to make it as easy as possible for you all when returning offers. Students, in my opinion, are less afraid now to withdraw an acceptance of a full-time offer than they were a few years ago. So sometimes I see employers extending those offers too early. So in August of 2020, they're asking a student to commit for May 2021. That's a big commitment. We in student affairs, can't have students commit to 2 weeks ahead of time if we gave them, a full 5-course meal. So asking them to commit an entire career full-time, maybe it's a life move, they're gonna move across the country, more than 8 months beforehand, that's a big commitment, especially now in the COVID area. A lot of students aren't sure where they're going to be in May 2021. So I just want to put that in your mind when you're thinking about extending those return offers, that sometimes if they came in the summer, you might want to wait until November to have those conversations and to start deciding about when to extend those offers. We definitely want to make sure that students have at least 3 weeks to decide. So one thing as far as our recruiting guidelines at UT Austin is that we don't allow exploding offers, which would be you extending a full-time offer, or even the offer for an intern to come on board and then giving them, less than that 3-week period, or only giving them 24 hours to decide. That's something that would go against the guidelines that we have at UT. So things to keep in mind. One tip for that virtual experience is, maybe having all of your staff members record a thank you message or sign an e-card thanking that student for their time at the internship. So that concludes really all the information about how to plan, what resources you need, what time you need to invest in that internship experience. Again, very broad. We are going to start hosting more internship specific Hook Talent EDUs. So the next one's going to be that supervising interns effectively, where we'll really go deep into what students need to be successful, how do students learn, how do students communicate. So if you're interested in that, we'll give you information on our follow-up email. It's going to be in October. It's still TBA. But now we'll open it up for any questions that you all have about internships. And you can use the chat to ask those, and Megan can facilitate that.
Lane, thank you so much. That was just really, really beneficial information. And also, if you guys would like to unmute yourselves and ask a question, you can do that too. And if anyone has any comments, any success stories from virtual recruiting, anything you did that worked really well, any networking you did with your interns that worked well during COVID, we would love to hear people share that as well.
Hey there, Susanna Craig with Pandia Health. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Well, thank you so much for putting this event together. You know, we're big believers with internship programs, and we are getting ready to do our third cohort. And during COVID, we found that we worked pretty well, but the key thing was to make sure that we keep all of our interns aware of what's going on and what our strategy is via Slack, and then get together at least once a week as a team to share success stories. So there's a few things that we've implemented in our program. The first one is, how do we go ahead and improve our LinkedIn profile? And so we give them some ideas of what they might want to take a look at and the skill sets that they'll be acquiring when they're with us. And then we talk to them about telling the story of what they did during their internship, and we implement this. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it, called SCAR, the situation, the complication, the assessment, and what actions they took, and then the results, so that they could tell their story of the things that they learned, because at times you forget all of the things that you did during your internship.
That's so great.
Yeah, so we've had tremendous success with our interns, and some have come back to work for us, and others have really established their careers, either solidified it, either going back for pre-med or going into tech or into digital marketing.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. I think that's amazing that y'all are providing that for them. That says a lot. And I'm sure there's some that even do other internships in full-time and come back to you later even with that kind of experience. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I was an intern once, and so I wanted to do more than stuff envelopes, which is what I did at one time. So I wanted interns to be involved.
That's great. Yeah, it's pipeline to full-time. That's awesome. Anyone else have any stories to share? I've heard of one fun networking that employers have done, like scavenger hunts. I've heard that, and it's just like a fun kind of culture building. And let's see, I have some people in the chat here. Okay, so how receptive are UT students to virtual internships this academic year? I mean, they're very, very keen on those, especially right now with COVID. Here in Austin, many of us are working remotely. Even UT Austin, many students are taking their classes remotely. There is some hybrid learning going on in some in-person classes. But I think everyone is very much so in this world of remote. And also it really extends their opportunities, right? One silver lining to the atmosphere right now is I've heard of a lot of employers, we used to just recruit New York. We've always heard of UT, but we go to New York. We don't go to Texas. But now everything's virtual, so we're recruiting at UT. We've always wanted to. So students are very receptive this academic year. And then we have another question. Let's see, how can we advise employers on how they can help students feel engaged with fellow employees when we're working remotely? And how do they feel a part of the team when they've never met their colleagues in person? We've even had some coworkers in this world right now. We have some staff members to our team. Some things we've been doing are reoccurring get-togethers where you can drop in and brainstorm. and that's all on our Outlook calendars. So, that's something you could do with interns. They could just get together and brainstorm on projects. I mean, I think that cross training is cool too. Like maybe you're working in finance, but like if you get to meet with the interns in marketing and hear what they're doing, meet with the tech interns, I mean, that's a really neat place to come together and learn from each other. And Slack has been really great for our team, with communicating between each other and getting to know each other and asking quick questions. You can even have kind of shared like, what's your a view from my office, like a fun Slack channel or a resource channel. So, you have those direct channels where you ask your boss questions, but then there's some lighthearted areas where people are just sharing fun things and, getting a view into each other's life and personalities and culture of the company. Lane, do you have some ideas there too?
Yeah, I think that it would be most successful to have that full-time employee reach out to that intern. Or maybe if you are the HR representative facilitating the internship program, then you schedule those meetings one-on-one. So like Megan was saying, maybe you have that marketing intern, set them up with someone in finance to just do like an informal informational interview about, what does the finance department do? Like, what are y'all's interns doing in the finance department? And then that will give them the opportunity to one-on-one make that connection with that full-time employee. Because like you said in your question, it's hard for them to facilitate those connections in that virtual setting. So interns are typically more hesitant than the full-time person. So especially in a virtual setting, they aren't going to take that initiative to just walk up or email someone and say, hey, let's meet, especially if they don't have access to a company-wide roster, which would be another great idea of giving them contact information for everyone in the company. And then they could just take the initiative and reach out. But I think it's going to be really beneficial to have someone facilitate those experiences, at least the first one, to give that student confidence in networking with a stranger at the organization. And then maybe tell that full-time employee, at the end of your conversation, say, hey, don't be afraid to like reach out to someone in data or reach out to someone in HR and have this same conversation that you and I just had, just with another individual. And then that will encourage the intern more.
Thank you. Any other questions or maybe sharing of success?
I wanted to just reach out and say that the way we're dealing with the COVID remote situation is to have the intern on-site 1 day a week and then remotely the rest of the time. And that way they're learning their practical skills, and then they can go home and do the data entry that they've been doing the research on. So it works out pretty well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Definitely extending that experience. Any other questions or sharing of success? So, let's see. Oh, we might have another question here. Oh, thank you. And so like Lane said, we're going to have a deep dive into supervising interns. And we'll have a whole series of more Hope Talent education workshops as well. In October, we're looking at doing an accommodations workshop and some other diversity topics. And we also want to hear from you. Are there topics that you really want to learn more about at UT, best practices, any questions? Also, we're always available to do one-on-one strategy calls. So if you email recruitut@austin.utexas.edu, our employer engagement team will answer those emails and set up time to chat with you, and definitely, customize a recruiting strategy with you based on the skills you're looking for and your goals. And our next employer engagement newsletter will go out on September 29th from Hire U Texas, powered by Handshake. So if you did not receive our newsletter last month, Please also email RecruitUT and we'll just check your status in Hire You Texas and make sure you're connected with us. That goes out to all approved employers. But if there's no other questions, oh, let's see, we might. Oh, thank you so much. We're excited to work with all of you. And we hope you have a great, successful recruiting season this fall and spring. And thank you so much for coming today. And Lane, thank you. You provided such great information.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. All right. Well, we will share a follow-up after this with a survey to get your feedback and a recording and the PowerPoint slides as well. So y'all have a great rest of your week and thank you again for coming. And we'll stay on for a few minutes just in case. All right. So it looks like we can hop off all in the meeting. Thank you.
All right.